The Chinese are famous for making copycat versions of European cars, and there's a perfect example of one right here. This is the Beijing Auto Group's BJ80, and it looks rather like a Mercedes G-Class, doesn't it? I mean, it's almost a carbon copy, in fact. How very cheeky of them. The front of the car is very G-Classy. The light design is like the current G-Classes, the rugged bumper, the way you've got those wheel arches that are pronounced, the flat bonnet, the bluff windscreen. You don't have the indicators on the top of the wings though, like the real G-Class, and the grille is a little bit more like that on a Jeep. The side profile though is completely G-Class, isn't it? Even the exposed hinges you have on the doors, the feel of the door handles, and listen to this, the noise the doors make when you open and shut them, so. And then it's just like the real thing. It's very familiar here at the back as well, especially with the rear mounted spare wheel, the fact it's got a flat back end and the tailgate opens outwards like that. All very G-Class, even underneath the skin. So this car has a ladder frame chassis. At the front, the suspension is independent, like on the latest G-Class, whereas at the back, it's got a rigid axle. Now I've just noticed something really odd. So the exhaust surrounds actually have a tow hitch coming out of them. So look, they wouldn't pass the carwow stick of truth. Though it should probably be the carwow ski pole of truth. Yeah, anyway, the actual exhaust is here. How very bizarre. The copying continues here on the inside. For instance, the two-tone seats are very much like in the normal G-Class. So are the door designs, the square effect of the trim, and this handle here, nice and rugged and chunky, and then the handle to help you get in here as well. However, the dash design itself is more like the previous generation G-Class because you haven't got the single screen, you've got two separate ones, and the buttons down here are like in the old G-Class as well. What I can't see are the 3 diff locks though this car does have a low range mode. Another thing that's missing is the classic grab handle on the dash, but the way the dash is designed, the way it's quite shallow and quite steep, is very much like the G-Class. Thing is though, this is a lot less expensive. So this is the range topping version. It's got a 3-litre V6 turbo. It's got 270 horsepower, 4-wheel drive of course, and it'll cost £40,000 in China. Whereas the entry-level G-Class, that's going to set you back around £200,000 if you're Chinese. What's fun is that this car is rather boldly on display pretty much right next door to the Mercedes stand at the Shanghai Auto Show. It's almost like they're rubbing Mercedes' nose in it. And you might be wondering, why the heck doesn't Mercedes come over here with their lawyers and get them to take this thing away and stop building these copycat cars? Well, I found out that Mercedes actually has a partnership deal with Beijing Auto Corporation to build cars here in China, so they're probably willing to overlook this kind of plagiarism in interest of business relations. Here's another version of the BJ80, only in a slightly different paint scheme. It's quite cool. Actually, wait a minute, it's got the indicators on the wings. Yeah, this is the real G-Class. In fact, it's the G63, and if you want one of these in China, it's going to cost around £300,000. So no wonder the copycat exists. The G63 isn't the only performance SUV Beijing Auto has copied. They also do a Lamborghini Urus ripoff called the Wansu. Another direct Chinese copycat is a Zoti SR9, which blatantly looks like a Porsche Macan. Then there's the Landwind X7, which is a cut and paste previous generation Range Rover Evoque. In fact, the company just lost a lawsuit in China against Land Rover over this car. Now what it appears the Chinese are doing is, rather than doing blatant outright copies which can get them into trouble, they're just borrowing certain design elements from other cars and then amalgamating them all onto one vehicle, as I'll show you now on this stand here with BYD, which stands for Build Your Dreams. So this is the Tang, and it's a hybrid SUV. It's actually got a 2-litre turbo, 2 electric motors, and can do 0 to 60 in just 4.5 seconds. But this rear 3/4 is rather like another hybrid SUV, one that's not quite so quick. Can you guess what it is? Yeah, a Lexus RX. You see it? It's quite obvious, really. I don't know about you, but I'm picking up quite a lot of Audi Q5 vibes from this song. The crease down the side and the way it kind of curves over the wheels, it's a little bit Audi Q5, isn't it? Then the lights are even more Q5, and when you combine that with the Audi-like grille, it's quite clear to see. The whole car actually from other angles doesn't look quite so Q5-ish, but from this front three quarters, yeah, it really, really does. This car is called the Han. Now it's an electric supercar, and it has 4 electric motors, so 1 for each wheel, and it can do 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. And you might be thinking, there doesn't appear to be much plagiarism going on here, but you'd be so wrong. For instance, take a look at this rear end. The wraparound light bar is very, very Porsche 911, isn't it? Even the way they've written "Build Your Dreams" is sort of in the Porsche font. Then if you look at this back screen, it reminds you of the engine covers you get on Lamborghinis. And finally, the name of the concept, even though the production car will be called the Han, this concept version is called the E-Ceed GT. Kia Ceed GT. They're even copying the name. Finally, from this angle, the shape of the lights and the way the bodywork kind of swoops over the wheel, it sort of reminds me of the Honda NSX. So this is the Song Pro, and it's a smallish SUV. But this element here, it's just like the side blade you get on an Audi Q2, especially the way it's contrasting with the bright blue paint. Also, this strong crease here is very Audi Q2-ish. Meanwhile, the lights at the back have vertical elements in them, a bit like the rear lights on the A6. For me, this is the most blatant bit of copying on the BYD stand, because it really does just look like a Toyota Aygo. Toyota Aygo? Do you reckon? Yeah, just a little bit, maybe a little bit. I'll show you the worst bit on it though. There's a one-piece glass tailgate. It's just totally shameless. This may well look like a Jeep Wrangler, but it is in fact a Beijing Auto Group BJ40. This car is made by Shanghai, and they've copied Range Rover in the way that they have the name boldly across the front. Even the font's the same. However, the model name of this car copies an Audi. Look, it's called the Q7. Though bizarrely, this car isn't a 7-seater, it's just a 5-seater. Beijing Auto Group doesn't just copy current car designs, it also seems to copy older ones as well. This looks like an old Volvo S60. However, the tech on this car is very modern. So it's called the EU300, and it's an electric car, but you can actually raise it up, drop the battery out of it, and swap it for a new battery that's fully charged so you can carry on with your journey. I don't know what's happening to me. I think I've seen too many copycats. I'm starting to see copying even when there's probably not any copying actually going on. Probably not any copying actually going on. Actually, do you know what? I'm not seeing things, because this is the new Neo ET preview. It's a concept car, but it really does look rather like an Audi A7. It looks cool though. And really, to be fair, while this has been a fun video to do, like looking at the copycats, I think that in future we're not going to see much copying from the Chinese. It's going to be like the Japanese. They used to copy, they don't anymore. They have their own unique designs. In fact, I think we're going to see the Chinese leading the way. They're certainly leading the way when it comes to electric cars, which this car is. Yeah, in the future, we're probably going to be copying the Chinese.